All right, so we've already talked about types of studies and types of people or the groups that we do study, like population versus sample. Okay, so today we're actually going to talk about methods of collecting your data. Okay, all right, there are different methods. Some methods are better than others. So the first one we're going to talk about is random. Now, to be random, it just doesn't have to say the word random because they're all random. But this one is ultimately random. Like it selects by chance. Everyone has an equal opportunity of being chosen. Like it cannot favor a group over another group. It has to be completely random, just like if you were, for example, drawing out of a hat. That's random. A random number generator. You know, some of your teachers had those. Drawing cards. Drawing cards. Like you say, you draw a card to see what order we go in. Okay, drawing cards is random. Stuff that's just like there's no rhyme or reason to it. It is just left up to chance. Okay, it's left up to chance. All right. Okay, the next one is a fan favorite. All right, the next one is systematic. It selects a random, so you select a random starting point and then you choose every nth subject. So say you've got some people standing in line. Okay, we're going to draw stick people, but I'm pretty good at drawing stick people. Okay, so we have people lined up. We want to survey every second person. So we would survey this guy, then this guy, and then this guy. I'm surveying every second person. Okay, that's systematic. Okay, where it says they do every so often, every third person, every fifth person, etc., etc. Okay, it's a pretty easy one to pick out when you're looking at scenarios. Okay, all right, the next one. All right, so these two are kind of similar, so that's why I like to show a comparison of these two, because they're kind of the same and there's just one itty bitty difference that you'll find in the two. Okay, all right, so cluster is where you divide the population into groups and then randomly select some of the groups to collect data. Okay, stratified also divides the population into groups and then collects data from each group. Okay, so for example, say we divide the high school, we're going to divide the students by grade level. Okay, let's do the same scenario and show the difference. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to divide the high school into, so we divide AG into AG students into groups by grade level. Okay, all right, so we divide AG students into grade level. Okay, so now we're going to draw that line again. So we have 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. And then we have 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade. Okay, now cluster is going to take some of the groups. So it's going to say, all right, I want to poll the 10th graders and I want to poll the 12th graders. And that's all I'm going to poll. So I'm going to poll the 10th graders and 12th graders. Not going to worry about 9th and 10th. I'm going to get 9 and 11. I'm going to get 10th and 12th. Okay? Now, stratified is going to say, okay, you got 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm going to take 10 9th graders. I'm going to take 10 10th graders. I'm going to take 10 11th graders. And I'm going to take 10 12th graders. And I'm going to ask those 40 my question. Okay? So do you see how stratified took a little bit from each grade level, whereas cluster, it took a cluster. That's where it gets its name from. Okay? It's taking these clusters and polling the entire cluster. Stratified is saying, all right, I want to take a sum from everybody. So I want to take some 10th graders, some 9th graders, some 11th graders, and 12th graders, okay? So stratified is going to hit every group it's divided into, whereas cluster is only going to pick the ones it wants, okay? All right, so those are your 4 sampling methods that we're going to talk about in here. So now we're actually going to do some examples, okay? You're going to have to tell me if it's random, if it's clustered, if it's stratified, or if it's systematic, okay? All right, here we go. So, identify the sampling method. Can you tell it's Christmas with my color choices? Okay, so I put the names of all Apex High students in a hat, and I select 100 names from the hat. Drawing from a hat, that was one example I gave you for random. That is random when you draw from a hat, because you can't control what you're pulling out, and you're literally, it's just on chance. It's a chance of who pulls out what, okay? So if it relies on chance, then it is random, okay? All right. Next one, I divide Apex High School students by grade level. Okay, when you hear something being put into groups, it's going to be cluster or stratified. Okay, 9 times out of 10. So I divide Apex High students by grade level. I randomly select 50 students from each grade level. Remember I said stratified takes some from each, and cluster takes a whole cluster. So if I'm taking 50 students from each grade level, that's going to be stratified. Okay? Each is your keyword when you got some groups there, okay, or some. All right, next one says at Apex High, randomly selects 10 classrooms during second period, sample all the students in those rooms. So I randomly select 10 classrooms during second period, okay? So sometimes you got to think, a classroom's a group, right? Are there only 10 classrooms at Apex High? We actually know Apex High. It's a pretty big high school. There are more than 10 class periods. So I'm only taking 10 classrooms, probably out of 50, and I'm only sampling those. So that is going to be cluster. Okay? It is where I'm taking and I'm sampling all the students. Remember, clustered does all of the students in that group, whereas stratified does some from each group. Okay. All right. Next one. Let's erase that. Okay, it did. All right. So next one says assign each Apex High student a number from 1 to the total number of students. Choose a random number at the starting point and then select every 25th student. Right there is your keyword, every 25th student. That is systematic. Remember when you do every nth subject? So this is going to be systematic. Okay? All right. Oh, I forget. I got my pen. All right. Come on. There we go. Let's go to E. All right. So E. All right, so G, the Educational Testing Service needs a sample of colleges. ETS first divides all the colleges into groups of similar types. So you got your groups of small public, small private, and it's probably large public, large private. And then they randomly select 3 colleges from each group. So see how it says each again? Remember, each is going to be your stratified, okay? Cluster takes all, stratified takes each. So this is stratified. Okay? All right. A county commissioner, let's change the color. A county commissioner wants to survey people in her district to determine their opinions on a particular law for adoption. She decides to randomly select blocks in her district and then survey all who live on those blocks. Now, just because it says randomly does not mean it's random. She is looking at blocks in her district. Well, blocks are groups of houses, right? So she takes the blocks and then she surveys all who live on those blocks. All is cluster. Okay? You got to look out for that group, okay? And groups are just not groups of people, okay? Like a block's a group of house. All right, a local restaurant manager wants to survey customers about the service they receive. Each night the manager randomly chooses a number between 1 and 10. He then gives a survey to that customer and to every 10th customer after that to fill it out before they leave. Well, every 10th customer, yes, he chose the number between 1 and 10, but he chose where to start first. Then he did every 10th customer. So that is going to be systematic. Okay? So I do want to end this video talking about a convenience sample. It's the one we didn't talk about because it's really the lazy method. it's a really bad method to collect sampling. It always has some type of bias in it. But a convenience sample is where you select individuals from a group that is conveniently accessible to the researcher. Okay, it's not, so it's like if I stand in front of Olive Garden and I ask the first 100 people that walk in what's their favorite restaurant. Well, you're walking into Olive Garden for some reason, right? So you're most likely probably going to say Olive Garden's your favorite restaurant, unless it's your husband that you drugged there and he's just going just to make you happy. But 9 times out of 10, convenience is going to be biased. So the ones I skipped, so if we go back down here, those were convenience. So when you look at, so if you look at E, okay, it says stand at the main entrance to Apex High one morning and pick the first 100 students to enter the school. Well, that's not random. Okay, because picking the first 100 students, that's just not by chance, okay? That's not random. Random is everybody has an equal chance. Not everybody has an equal chance to be in the first 100 students, okay? There's a lot of things that could play into that. And they're not divided into groups, so it's not clustered or stratified. It's not systematic because they're not doing every 100 student. They're just pulling the first 100 students. So that is why that is convenience, okay? Now, F, you post an online survey on the Apex High website. Okay, well, that's not random, because what if somebody doesn't log into the website like another person does, or it's not put into groups, so it's not cluster or stratified. They're not emailing every 10th person, so it's not systematic. So again, this one is convenience, okay? When none of the other ones fit, it's going to probably be convenience, okay? So like J, a professor at UNC is interested in studying drinking behaviors among college students. The professor decides to stand at the main entrance to the student union and survey students who enter. Again, convenience. It's helping him out with it being easier, okay? All right, so that is it for sampling methods, and you'll have a worksheet, and that's it, guys. Where'd it go?